The final part of your painting is called the contrast layer. Now what this does, it gives us a lot of additional form. We can do this by using black to deepen the shadows and finally using white to bring elements forward in the picture. So what we're going to do now is just work around the head and the mane. So we'll start off in the centre of the forehead again, just coming up into the mane, and again using the corners of the pastel. Make sure you keep it nice and sharp, nice and soft. There are no strong markings on the line, of course. Everything is quite subdued. Look for the shadow bits of the fur in your reference and just try to sketch those in as you work around. Of course, some will be slightly darker than others, so go over it 2 or 3 times to get it as dark as you want. That ear just poking out there is going to be a little bit darker. And now you can start to play around with the fur texture. So make some nice squiggles in the fur as well. And then we just reshape the face a little bit, looking for the small hairs around the face that sprout off into the mane. This will help you to define the shape of the head and the face. The good thing about painting lines is there are no markings, no stripes, no spots to worry about. Only texture. So concentrate on the texture. Try to get a feeling for that lovely flowing scraggly mane. And we have a few little marks above the eyes as before where we have the muscles. I can see some hair from the mane falling down over the forehead, so we'll get a little bit of that in. And notice how the hair is very, very crinkly when it comes down into the paws. So this is your chance to get a lot of those crinkly hairs defined. So change the direction, let some flow horizontally, let some come down. Don't be afraid to let your wrist keep turning, altering your angles. Now we'll just sharpen up 1 or 2 of these little whisker follicles. And then we can address the paws. Now the paws only really need a suggestion of an outline on the top and on the bottom where they're hanging over the platform. So don't go too mad on the paws. We want all the concentration to be on the face really. Of course we need the paws to be there, but it's only required that you sketch them in at this stage. Of course we have a little bit of shadow on the inside of the back leg, so gently brush the black pastel over to form the shadow. And from the shadow just flick a few little marks back to form the fur. A little claw there, a little bit of a shape to the ankle, a little bit of shape to the top part, the knee, and then finally down to the tail. The tail has very, very tiny hairs, so we don't need to bother drawing all of those. But what we do need to do is just to strengthen the black tip. So just right at the end, some nice little bits of fur to strengthen that black tip. Now white will help to bring a lot of elements forward from the picture. There's not an awful lot of white on the lion, but what there is sort of creamy ivory white. So if we start off with the eyes, we can see that around the eyes there are some very, very light areas. So again, using the corners of the white pastel, just gently stroke. You're still painting fur, remember, so keep it nice and sharp, nice little strokes. You can start to bring the eyes out just by putting white around them. And where you have the yellow underneath, this white will make it turn sort of creamy yellow, ivory almost. So in this case, around the eyes, we have almost pure white. And on top of the yellow here, very, very creamy. And then we can bring that down around the nose. What we're doing is bringing these elements forward now. The eyes are starting to come forward. The nose will start to come forward just by framing them with white. And we can pop this white in amongst the whisker follicles. That will bring the muzzle forward. and the chin, of course. There's lovely white and creamy grey hairs in the chin. Next thing we'll do is just to highlight some of the mane, going over the browns and the yellows, just white here and there, but not too strong. So look for the very, very lightest parts of the mane and just help to create a little bit of texture by dragging the white over. A little bit lighter on this side. This is the side which is catching most light, so we can add a little bit more on that side of the mane and that ear as well, and the hairs flopping over the forehead there. And of course we've got a lot of light catching these sort of grey, ivory brown paws. There are a lot of colours in a lion, and if you look closely you start to see them. You start to see the silvery colours, the ivory colours, the sandy colours. You can of course recreate all this with just a very small palette. You don't need a big range of colours to do this. And then of course the tail, mustn't forget the tail. Gently stroke over there and let it fade out into the black. Just check everything before you finish. Make sure you've got enough highlights, enough contrast. Maybe put a few more little flecks into the forehead for the muscles. And the final thing we need to do, of course, is add whiskers. So just have a quick check on your reference photo first, and then before you actually draw the whiskers, give yourself a start point and a finish point. You can have a practice on a separate piece of paper if you want to, but once you've done that, your start point, finishing point, just stroke and flick. Using the sharp corner of the pastel, of course. These whiskers need to be reasonably fine, especially on a painting this size. Vary your angles a little bit, vary the shapes a little bit, and vary the lengths. The whiskers aren't all growing in the same direction, they're not all the same length. And you want to leave these nice and sharp, except for the beginnings. The beginning of the stroke need to be softened off a little bit with your finger, so they appear to be growing out of the muzzle. And there we are, all finished. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of the lion painting, and that you can learn from these simple techniques, these simple stages to create your own wildlife paintings. In this case, most of it is about texture. There are no spots and stripes to work with, so next time you're down at the zoo, have a close look at the lion, look at those textures, and have a go yourselves.